And now, the Android Basics segment. This is a segment where we discuss the things that power your device from behind the scenes. And now, here's this week's episode, Android Basics.
Now we move on to our Android Basics section. And Samsung has rolled out the One UI 8 beta for qualifying devices. That's to say the S25 series of phones. John, do you want to kick us off?
So I did install it. You have to have an S25 series device, which I'm sure does not surprise anybody. This is how Samsung does things, not the Pixel way. But yeah, I installed it, and for a first beta, it seems to be running pretty good. I'll talk about a couple of things I noticed. They have actually fixed the fingerprint direction thing. So how it was always saying move up when you move up. You know, I complained about this throughout the entire One UI 7 beta and after it was released as a stable because they never fixed it. But it is now fixed in 8.0. It will actually tell you the correct way to move your finger. So yeah, that was an embarrassing bug, in my opinion. Glad they fixed that. They have labeled some things that were unlabeled. The one being the media player on the lock screen. They call it the now bar. It's at the very bottom of the screen between the two shortcuts. If you're playing media, there's play controls down there. Those were not labeled. Now they are labeled. When you long press a notification, the buttons on there were not labeled. They're now labeled. I noticed they added actions to when you're customizing the quick settings panels. So not the quick settings toggles themselves, but the panels. So when you're moving around, like where you want your volume slider and brightness slider to be, where you want your quick toggles to be and all that. Those panels, they're still not labeled. So I did report that once again. They're technically labeled, but they're just labeled as their position, like quick panel 1 of 6, you know, which doesn't tell you anything about it. So they're still unlabeled, but they have added actions that will let you move them around. If you would rather use actions to move them rather than double tapping and holding, there's actions for move up, move down, move to top, and move to bottom. Then as far as TalkBack 16, it does come with TalkBack 16, but as usual, it's Samsung's version. So it doesn't include any of the exciting stuff. So if you have an S25 device, you will still have image descriptions, but you won't be able to ask follow-up questions, and you won't have screen descriptions. All the other features that were added to TalkBack 16 seems to be there, but anything related to the image descriptions and screen descriptions that were added don't seem to be there. And I'm assuming, I haven't tried it, but I'm assuming that if you don't have an S25 device, when you do get One UI 8, you will still not have any sort of image description at all, which is sad. Another thing I noticed, and this was a big deal in One UI 7, people were noticing that Samsung, intentionally or unintentionally, I don't know, but Samsung's TTS cannot be used by third-party apps any longer. It's only used by Samsung's TalkBack and Samsung's apps, you know, so like when it reads summaries of web pages from Samsung Internet, or you do translations and stuff like that, it will use their own TTS engine, but they are not letting other apps use it anymore. So I thought that was a bug, but now One UI 8 beta has been released, and I'm starting to wonder if it was a bug. I reported it once again, just in case it's something they overlooked. But yeah, if you were hoping for that to be different, that is not different.
Yeah, so John, this is really interesting. I mean, they fixed something, especially that fingerprint notification as to where it is that you talked about, which is absolutely great. We're happy. But then why in the world would anyone want to hog tie the TTS and only, reserve it for Samsung apps alone? I don't understand that, because one would think that they will open it up to other apps, or especially to other screen readers. Let's say you want to use the confused screen reader, or you want to use the prudence, or talkback, whatever the case may be. I don't know why Samsung is doing this. This is not good. Maybe they just want to be exclusive and all of that. And another thing that I kind of find mind-baffling is the fact that they don't push out their beta to the qualifying. At least push it out to the 24. If you don't want to push it out to the other one, say the S23 or whatever. But this is why I think when it comes to betas, Google does it better than Samsung does, and all of that. But there's one thing that I was reading about that I kind of like that Google was going to do, but Samsung beat it to the punch, is, the split screen. When you split that screen and they're in equal halves, and, on a little screen, screens are not little, but not tall enough. I like what they have done, the 90-10, so 10%, the other one, so you have more room to work on. I like that instead. And if you like to switch to the other one to be bigger, then tap on it and you'll be whatever bigger on that side, and the other one shrinks down. I like that implementation, and I'm looking forward to when Google will implement that as well, because split screens, I like the idea, but sometimes it makes it hard. I'm not going to be focused on both at the same time. You know what I mean? Yet in the same breath, I want both to be kept open.
I'm all about them adding this feature. This is Android, so the more ways to do things, the better. But I don't quite understand it myself. Like, if I was switching back and forth between two apps, I do the recents gesture twice to go to the last app. If I have, for sighted people, like if they have navigation gestures enabled, they can just slide one finger either left or right along the bottom of the screen to switch between two apps, or double press the recents key to switch between two apps. So I don't understand. Maybe this is a me thing, but I don't understand what's so great about this. But people do love it.
I think it's a seeing thing, because you don't have to unifocus if you can see. You can literally look at two things at once.
Yeah,
so you don't have to swipe. So
and I guess technically, if you are doing the swipe method, you have to remember which way to swipe. Like, okay, now I'm going to swipe right to go to the other app, then I'm going to swipe left to go to the other app. Whereas if you do have vision and you can see like the 10% of the app you want to switch to peeking out from the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen, I guess it would be a little easier. But it's just as quick, But hey, I'm all about new features and new ways to do things, so I'm not complaining.
The other thing I found slightly odd about Samsung's beta rollout, and it is, and I don't know if they've done it for One UI 8, but for One UI 7, they certainly did this. It's not just that you have to have a qualifying phone, but the qualifying phone, even if it's unlocked, can't have been bought from a carrier. So I had this problem with my S24. I had an unlocked phone that I'd bought secondhand, and I hadn't realized it was a carrier phone or that this would be a problem. But I couldn't install One UI 7 because it was, even albeit unlocked, a carrier phone. I don't know if the same is true for the S25 and One UI, but that is basically the only reason I upgraded.
Is it because you could?
Yeah, so my S25 is bought from Samsung, so
gotcha.
It's not a carrier phone. I applied all those offers, so the S24 I would have kept, but it wouldn't let me install betas on it. I thought it was absolutely crazy.
So, how was yours running? What do you think of it?
It's fine, yeah, not a problem. I've been playing. The quick settings panel is quite odd. I find Samsung's quick settings panel quite odd. I like what I have noticed is that sometimes I can swipe with two fingers between quick settings and notifications, but it doesn't seem to work necessarily brilliantly.
Yeah, you can, but the problem with that is if you're on the notification shade and you swipe on a notification, it will dismiss that notification. So yeah, if you have vision and you can see that I'm going to swipe on an area where there is no notification, like below the notifications, then yeah, it is an easy way to switch back and forth between the two, the quick settings panel and the notifications panel. And it was like this in One UI 7 also.
Yeah. What I found a bit confusing was that when I installed One UI 8 beta, it came up with a list of new features, but a lot of them were in One UI 7, so it's quite hard to tell what was new. Like it told me about all the AI stuff that One UI 7 could do.
That's funny. So I
Did you see that?
I did, but I did actually notice an improvement to one feature. So I used the proofreading feature. I actually switched to Samsung's keyboard just to use proofreading. Like I don't actually use the keyboard to type or anything, but I do use the proofreading. And the way it worked before, so I don't know if they've changed how it behaves or if they've just made it so that TalkBack can interact with it more. But now what I'm able to do is, before it would just show me like the proofreaded version of what I had just typed, and then I could copy it or replace it, right? So like it would capitalize everything that was not capitalized and needed to be capitalized, so on, right? Fix my punctuation, that sort of thing. But now it actually, when I put it in focus and it's reading it back to me, I can hear like the link click sound on everything that's underlined, and where it's showing me where the corrections were made, and I can swipe up through them because they're technically links to see what all the corrections it actually has made are. Whereas before I couldn't tell what corrections it actually made. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll just trust that this is better than my version and replace it. So it has actually gotten a little bit better.
Well, that's good. And does that let you either accept or reject those corrections? Is it that clever? Is it like track changes?
To be honest, I did not try it. I should have, but
yeah,
it's possible. I would assume that because they are showing up as links and they're clickable, that if I were to accept those links, it would make that one specific correction. But that's just an assumption on my part. I didn't actually try it.
Yeah, I wonder what the default is. Like, its changes the default, or do the links effectively let you reject the changes, or do you get a choice? I might play with that, see what it does.
Yeah, an interesting thing, because, well, I find it interesting because Samsung completely botched One UI 7. Right, it's the worst release of an Android version from Samsung in recent memory. Right, but it's cracking me up how they're already on Android 16 and they're making the claim, and it's probably going to be true, at least in the US. Definitely in the US it's going to be true, but maybe elsewhere, that their Flip 7 and Fold 7 are going to be the first phones released with Android 16. So it's funny how far they've come, I guess, in a short period of time.
Yeah. Do we think they're going to beat the Pixel 10?
Yeah, because the Pixel 10, if it's
the
released
Pixel
same
10
time
is not going to come till like August, so definitely they're going to be the ones. But remember, we were talking about this thing, how tightly in bed Samsung and Google are moving together. And I recall we talking about the fact that, I think Google realigned this so that they will be on the same page with Samsung and releasing, phones in the summer with the same, Android version. So this will not surprise me at all. And by the way, this beta was only for like the one that dropped on Wednesday was for like the US, the UK, Germany, and South Korea, right? I think these were the only 4 countries. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it worth talking about? I mean, I don't know if it's full. Just worth talking about how you get the beta if it does roll out. That's through the Samsung Members app, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You go in there. You'll either see it in a banner across the top, or you can check your notifications, and you might have a message in the notifications near the top right. Somewhere, usually one of those 2 ways is how I get to it.
I actually had to scroll all the way to the bottom. I think it would have shown at the top if I had registered for previous beta programs, but I hadn't, because obviously I couldn't on my S24. So when I knew it was available, I sort of Googled how you found it, and then I just scrolled my Samsung Members app all the way down to the bottom, and it was there.
I think it's because you guys have confused things there in the UK. You got both metric and imperial, John. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. As usual, install at your own risk, but it seems pretty stable to me. And I think part of the reason why this rollout is going to be, well, hopefully it's going to be much quicker and easier for them, is because they haven't changed anything that I could tell, besides what Warren mentioned about that one new split screen feature. Like, as far as like the appearance and the UI, all that stuff they changed in One UI 7. It was probably the biggest change to the UI that Samsung's done in a few years. So I think this time around they're more like, let's just update under the hood. Like let's just put Android 16 under all of those changes we've already made. So hopefully this one will be a lot smoother and quicker than the last one.
It was quite funny, and I know there's been chat on the Telegram group about this, but as soon as I installed the One UI 8 beta, my image descriptions broke in Google Talkback, and oh no, what on earth has happened? But happily, that was not a Samsung One UI 8 beta issue, and that was a broader Google issue. But because it happened immediately after I'd done it, I thought, what's gone on
yeah,
here?
if that happened to me, like if it had also happened to me at the same time, I would have been freaking out. Like, oh no, did they figure a way to block this? And now I'm not going to be able to use Google Talk. Like, I would have been pretty upset.
That's exactly what I thought that they'd done. It's like, we haven't introduced image descriptions in our talkback. You shall not have them anymore. And like, what's going on? And my internet was working, and I could download icon packs even through talkback. Like, what's happened? Oh well, but it wasn't that, which is good.